Here.
Alder Wood.
Here.
Mayor O'Connor.
Here. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the April 6th meeting?
Move to approve. Second.
Any corrections, additions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. There are no appearances. There is no unfinished business. Under new business, item 6A, consideration of resolution 20-4-2403, approving a memorandum of agreement between the Wisconsin Historical Society and the City of Monona for the completion of a historic preservation project. Is there a motion to approve this?
Move to approve. Second.
Second? Okay, is Doug going to explain this, or are you, Brian?
I'm going to explain it for this one. Doug will be joining us at 7 p.m. for the council meeting. Again, this is pretty straightforward. In last November, the Landmarks Commission asked Doug to go through the process of applying for a Wisconsin Historical Society's grant to assist with kind of increasing our inventory of historic structures. We applied for that grant and received $25,000. That money will allow us to do up to 15 individual eligible property nominations. I say up to because it may be less than that depending on the cost of each individual property that we go through. Contract is pretty straightforward. Staff recommends approval, and City Planner Plowman will be with us at the council meeting if there's any kind of technical questions about it.
Any questions?
Yeah, it looks great. Thanks. Congratulations.
Did Bill review this agreement? Or
I did not review it, Mary. I can look at it between now and the council meeting.
okay, I mean, I assume it's probably okay, but
Yeah, I'll look at it between the meetings.
okay, that'd be great. Anything else? Okay, well, all in favor of approving this and sending it on to the council, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Doug, did you say aye?
I did.
Okay.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item, discussion and update on staffing, budgetary, and city operations contingency plans for COVID-19. I think Mark and Brian are going to...
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to ask Mark
update.
to kind of dive into the financial situation just to kind of give you an overview of where we're at and what some of our assumptions and expectations are if this continues on the trajectory it's been on in terms of what that means for our revenue for the rest of the year. But before I have Mark do that, I just want to highlight a couple of things that we've been talking about internally as staff and with the mayor, thinking kind of long-term about recovery from this. So first, likely it will be at some point we'll need to utilize a portion of the city's undesignated fund balance to offset the revenue losses that we're experiencing. Mark will go into a little bit more detail about what the potential and what sources of revenue have been hit most hard by this. But I can say that we're in a pretty good place financially as it relates to our fund balance. So that's a positive for us. And so we'll be taking a careful look at that over the coming months to determine how much we may need to dip into that. Before we do that, we will come to you, the Finance and Personnel Committee, with our proposal for what that may look like when we get to that stage in the game. Looking a little bit more long-term about personnel, what we are going to be doing is instituting a hiring freeze for all non-emergency services personnel through the balance of this 2020 and potentially into 2021, depending on how things shake out here. This does not include any police officer or firefighter hires that we are currently in the process of doing or may need to do between now and the end of the year, and that also includes the fire chief position. So it just is all other non-emergency services personnel, there'd be a hiring freeze. So just so that's clear. And then looking ahead to the 2021 budget process, we started some discussions on a staff level about preparing various scenarios to reflect some of the assumptions that we're seeing for declining revenues and the lingering impacts of COVID. We're going to ask staff to put together, we'll say 2 to 3 different scenarios for the various committees to take a look at when we get to that point in the budget process, so that we can have some conversations about what paths we want to go taking moving forward with the 2021 budget. And then lastly, this will be something we talk about at our next meeting on May 4th, but the plan is for staff to bring back for you an extension of the payment plan for payment of normal wages and benefits covering staff, as we have done the previous 2 meetings, to have that continue from May 5th until at least the end of May 26th, which is the assumed end date of the Safer at Home order. That's based upon the information we have it now. If that order gets extended, we may reevaluate that plan, but that's the goal for the next meeting. So with that, I'll pause for a moment, take any questions you have on my comments, and then turn things over to Mark to provide an overview of the finances.
Questions? Doug?
Are you starting to work on plans for how we will sort of restart the operations? And I assume it'll kind of have to be a phased approach.
Yes.
Maybe plans is too
Yes, we have been. And for the council meeting, I have a little bit longer list of updates of things that we've been talking about internally to provide. But the short answer to your question is yes, we've been talking about that specifically as it relates to the library. The library is discussing with their staff in response to the extension order of last week how they could safely provide some type of curbside pickup of materials for patrons sometime after the 24th. It's probably not the case that we'd be ready to offer that service on April 24th, but it might be a week or so after that we could do that. Parks and Recreation is a little bit more tricky because that does depend on if and when the order is lifted, and whether or not the Dane County Public Health Department and the state health department say it's safe to open up swimming pools and other sort of recreational activities. So they're in a little bit more of a wait and see mode, but they're in constant contact with the Parks Association lobbyists to get a sense of the pulse at the Capitol Hill. But the library is actively looking at how they would staff a modified limited term opening.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think anything will be a lot of what we do. I mean, to just have our staff come back, that'd probably be okay, but it's all these programs.
Mm-hmm.
So, at the senior center and Park and Rec, and then there's the whole summer camp thing, and that's all going to depend on how quickly we move through these Badger bounce back stages, I think.
Yep.
So. Anything else, Brian?
Nope. I'll turn things over to Mark.
Mark, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll start. Can you hear me? 'Cause I know today in the meeting it was hard to hear me. So.
Now we can. Yep.
There's a couple of things here. Just to start, as you know, with the government and the way we're funded by the property tax. So we're basically funded for a majority of our expenses for the year. So that, we can, helps us to brace for this year. Second, our fund balance is about 30%. And that's kind of a rolling number because it's usually based on next year's budget number. But if you look at it, if you compare it to our 2020 budget, we're basically about 30%, 29 to 30%. So there's a lot to work with there with that. So we talk about the rainy day fund. This is why we have it for these situations. So the biggest issues revenue-wise, there's 5 really big issues that we have to watch. One is interest income. Right now, first 3 months of the year are usually our biggest months for interest income. We're kind of on target right now with that, but the interest rates have been dropping, and we've seen, we're down compared to last year about 50,000. But we had bigger balances last year. So we are starting to see that creep in. So I'm projecting just kind of based on what our balances are and what the interest rates have been for March. I assume they're going to, I don't know if the new loans program, rates are going to stay the same. They're going to go up or down. But based on it could be between $50,000 to $100,000 loss in that just from interest income. Another big one is fines, court fines. As you're aware of, Wally talked last meeting about, they're not really writing as much tickets. They're kind of, not doing that. So right now we're on target where we should be for fines, but that's usually kind of, it's like a 3 month lag. We'll start to see that when they're not writing tickets. So just kind of based on the projection, we'll probably be about $60,000 down there. Another big one is hotel tax, motel tax. This one I don't have a handle on yet. The first quarters are due at the end of the month. I have not received any of them yet. So, April and here in May, I assume it's going to be very minimum for hotels. I know they're still open, but they're not receiving much for room tax. So I assume that one's going to be the big one. Max we can keep is 202,000. I would say right now there's going to be no money for the tourism based for the 2020 year. I assume we're going to get, if we're lucky to get to 202,000 in 2020. That'd be great if you can get that. I assume there's going to be some type of loss there. What that number is, I won't really know until I get the first quarter numbers in, and we can kind of project it from there. Another one is a minor number, but it's still boat launch. We kind of talked about with Ace Hardware closing. We budgeted 21,000 based on what we got to 2019. What it's looking for this year, we'll probably have $11,000 loss there. It's a minimum. I just want to hit on that one. Sorry about that. Turn off my ringer. So those, look at those. We're at, it's over like 200 some thousand possibilities. Depending on what happens when they come out of this, give or take, we'd be okay. The rec programs, if we close the pool down, we actually break even. It's one of those things. Basically, what we do have property taxes, that kind of covers our salaries. A lot of that covers the salaries. Biggest loss is the after-school program because that was kind of covering a lot of extra events that Jake was doing. But I'm assuming this year we're not going to do a lot of special events. So I'm hoping those funds, we should be okay, just because I'm sure we're not going to do a ton of extra events. And we still have this second semester of school, or next year's school. So those are the negatives. There's a couple positives, expense-wise. Gas, as you're aware, is down to $1. So there should be some savings there. We're not really having court, so there should be some savings there in the court costs with the attorneys. So there's kind of two areas of savings. Inspections or permits, building permits. We're actually on target already for this year. We might be a little bit over, so that's going to help us too. So in all, we could be up to 250,000 losses in the end, but I think we have enough fund balance to cover that. So it all depends, I guess, with the hotel tax. I think that's the biggest outlier in the interest income where the rates are going to be. But the bigger effect is going to be 2021 budgets. If the interest income, interest rates do come down, they don't go back up again. There will be a cut there based on what our numbers are in 2020. So should lose some money there. I forgot to touch on the EMS revenue too. EMS revenue we're projected at a $75,000 loss. So I think we need to really dig into that and see what's kind of going on there. We increased the rates for EMS, but right now the runs are down, and also we increased the rates, but a lot of the patients receive Medicaid and Medicare, so we're not getting fully reimbursed. We want to get probably a third what the rates are. So we're really taking a big hit in their EMS fund.
Mark, I've got a quick question about the EMS rates. When I was on that call this afternoon, it sounded like several counties had gotten payments from the feds just today that they interpreted as being Medicare EMS to cover Medicare EMS costs. I'm not exactly sure exactly what that meant, and the people on the call were kind of surprised they'd gotten these checks too. We didn't happen to get a check, did we?
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't seen one, so I can look into it.
Well, it's possible something may be showing up. I'm not sure what the story is on that yet.
Yeah. And as far as the 2021 budgets, we're losing. Walmart's gone, so there's 50,000 there. There's 40 in the general fund, 10 in the transit. We're losing down to the max for hotel share. We'll lose 30,000 there. So we're right there. We're starting $80,000. We have to make up in property taxes or budgets. It also depends on the interest income number will come in. EMS revenues, we're going to look at that, see if there's probably adjustments we're going to have to make to that, cut somewhere. So it's definitely going to be an area we're going to 2021 is going to be a tough year. There's no denying it. I think Brian hit the head. We're going to have to do different scenarios of budgets to figure out best scenario. That's kind of all I have. If you have questions.
Mark, you may.
I had one other question. I thought we had talked about more like a $350,000.
Yeah, when I went through it again, and I just kind of I thought my interest income would be a lot higher, but just kind of based where the rates are right now and what our balances are. And when we pay our big debt payments is in October, and that takes a chunk out, and that's what will eat up a lot of our interest income. So I think we can go through October. It'll still make enough that we can get to like $50,000 to $100,000 loss. If we make that debt payment, say in June, we'd have less balance, and it would really hurt us. But
Okay.
in October, it helps us.
Okay. Questions, Andrew?
More of a comment or clarification. So is it accurate to say that us continuing to pay employees is actually not essentially costing us or putting us in the red? It's kind of the other impact of interest programs not happening, that type of revenue. So it's correct to say, because we're paying our employees, we're not putting the city more in red because of that.
That's correct. I'd argue it's external items that are coming in rather than payments going out from the city.
Yes.
Perfect.
And we just ran the payroll April 15th, and it was probably about, you guys had the number, 16,000 is what it was. But it includes people who are like public works, where there's only one person in at a time, 7, the ones that are at home, so counts that too. But the part-timer was probably 9,000. That the 9,000 would be the library, senior center part-timer, and then the rec department. So it's not a ton, 9,000 is what that is at the per pay period. If you don't count public works.
And kind of a follow-up question or a different question. Has any city employees had to take their 2 weeks leave or take leave because of COVID at all, or what's been the impact on maybe the 2-week leave policy?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
Not right now with the situation. We haven't had anybody.
Okay.
Doug, did you have anything?
Yeah, one question, Mark. So you said we're about 30% on the fund balance?
Yeah.
So how much would that be if we went down to 20%?
That's roughly 600,000,
Okay.
give or take
Wait.
1,000.
So you're saying that 10% is 600,000?
Roughly, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
A lot of it's related to last year in 2019, we had the TIF 2 closing, and then we just in general interest income was a lot higher. There's a lot in the building permits were up, so we actually budgeted for a loss last year when coming out a big gain, so there was a big swing right there.
Very fortunate.
Yeah, well, TIF 2 was a big. Those TIFs are important when they close. They make a big difference. But we've been doing very good with our, fund balances and being very careful what we're spending, and this is where it comes into play, where we have this, we need it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge highlight.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Nope.
Okay, I think, Mark, we're gonna be explaining some of this to council.
Correct.
Probably not maybe not in quite as much detail, but. Okay, well then we'll move on to the financial report. Mark, were you gonna go over that?
Yeah, so I'll just kind of hit on here. I got my glasses on. Page 16, I did put on here fines and forfeitures will be probably 60 to 7,000 what we talked about under budget. Page 17. I guess the biggest thing, the unknown, is you see a transfer from tourism, number 3. Really waiting on those first quarters, and that's going to be the big number. If they come in really low, then it could be a lot more than what we projected.
Mark, are we getting any? Are they collecting room tax for the Country Inn and Suites? I understand they were using that for homeless.
Yes, since it's government, they don't pay room tax.
Oh.
So I did receive today our first checks from Airbnb.
Oh.
So I got 2 of them actually came in total, about 5,000 for the first quarter. So that's a plus,
Did they tell you? Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, do we know that I know we're aware that there's some in the community, but this isn't anybody we had actually talked to or anything, is it? Or because we never passed an ordinance about.
This is coming from corporate based upon the state law. So they're required under state law to make this. The Airbnb corporate is required to pay all municipalities that have, these properties in the communities.
Okay.
rent tax.
Yeah, the two added together had a net or gross revenues of 70,000. So for the first quarter, so whoever's Airbnbs they had a net revenue, gross revenue of 70,000. So
And to be
Do they
clear,
identify the properties?
no.
they do not. This is basically the biggest one came from I can't remember the name of it. It's out of San Francisco. I think it's the big one that kind of oversees all of it in the Manila area. But 70,000, that's huge.
Yeah.
So some people are definitely renting their places. A couple things I want to highlight on the revenue or the expenses. I talked about page 18. So just show, you see the legal retainer. We talked about, we're not doing court cases right now except for juveniles. So I assume there's going to be some type of savings there that could help us. Legal retainer too in general, you see $4,000 for 1 month. There will be some savings there. Ryan and Bill did an excellent job together. One area I kind of want to hit, especially with the new fire chief coming in eventually, is page 23. This is really the only expense that's really over budget. It looks like it's going to be over budget. It's the same one we've always been talking about this last year. It's paid on premise. Right now we're at 41% of our budget. When I just looked, I got April's number. We're basically at 20,000 already, 30,000. So we're projected to be 60,000, so about 30,000 over. So I think we need to figure out how we're going to handle this. I'd like to get it handled before the new chief comes in, so he doesn't deal with kind of that. So that's the biggest one. I talked to Chief Eplock about this and kind of start the process. Let him be aware of it. And, he says he wants to do a budget amendment to take it from paid on premise to take some of that money and increase the paid on premise. Paid on call, take some money from paid on call, and transfer to paid on premise. But I think it's something we need to really look at and see how the program's really working.
Yeah, I think we need to take a look at and make sure they're just having, like, if they've got 3 people scheduled, 3 professionals scheduled, is there just one paid on premise, or are there more at any given time, and things like that. And I know they're not having as much LTE coverage as Scott originally thought, because is it 2 of the LTEs have been told that by their own departments that they can't work anywhere else during the COVID crisis. So, but I think we need to get a little better handle on how it's being used and when.
So those are I just want to hit on those through March. That's the area of most concern. Expense-wise, what's going on with the whole COVID-19, but expense-wise, that's probably the biggest area of concern. Otherwise, everybody's kind of be right on budget or below that. They're aware of what's going on, and they're, as usual, they'll maintain their budgets pretty well. Department heads. So.
Mark, I had a quick question on 21 before we go too far. Is that several cars? The insurance claims are so high? Is that?
Yeah, so that 2 squad cars basically got hit at the same time.
Oh, okay. Oh, squad cars, that's what it says. Got it. I was turning that. Okay.
Yeah, so it's.
I remember that.
For them. That's where I reported it. I think they were hit on the same day when they were chasing somebody, both uninsured people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Sorry.
So that's really all I have for the financials right now. And if you guys have questions or concerns.
Questions, anybody? Guess not. Or Doug, did you have something?
Can we buy some of that oil that was going for negative price today?
Put it in our strategic reserve.
That's all I
Okay,
have.
we'll go on to the checks then from Acceptance of general fund accounts payable checks dated April 3rd to the 16th, 2020. Documentation of invoices paid is available in the city clerk's office.
Just a couple things here. Highlight, page 58, David Allen, that's a Sam Daminani person working for us. I know we're running short on time for the next meeting. So page 59, Dean County Treasurer, land swap program that we're part of. We have a lot in work. That's kind of all I have. Oh, page 68. Page 68, there's MG&E. You see there's a bunch of all the, one of them is called Park and Rec facilities. And a lot of that's related to the ice skating rink.
Yeah.
So that's one of the chiller, that's part of that.
Well, I think a fair amount of it is due to that fire pit too.
No.
Fire pit, it's just that whole Grand Crossing work. Yeah. That's all I have.
Questions, anyone? Andrew, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just interested in the University of Wisconsin. It says Mayor O'Connor. I'm guessing it says membership or members. What that was.
That's that mayor's.
The
they did
cows.
the studies for us. Yeah,
Mayor's Innovation
Okay.
Project.
Gotcha. I was wondering if that's what it was.
yeah. We decided to join it again because they'll do. What do they do? 2 or 3
Policy memos.
studies a year. It includes a
Yeah,
fair amount
Good.
of information.
I think it's a good investment.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, is there a motion to accept the bills?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Okay, I will cancel you all out of this meeting and start up the next one.
Participating in your last
Yeah. Last
finance and personnel meeting. Do we have to go out now, Brian? And
Yep, exit out of this meeting and I'll admit you back into the next one.